Hello. I am out roaming around in the country and decided that would be a good time to make a video because somebody posted something on my TikTok page the other day after I did the live that I posted here with Melanie, Notes to Self 444, about what my thoughts were about Meri and the fact that, I don't remember how it was said, but it was kind of like, you know, Meri has openly admitted to being mean to Janelle. And then, you know, like some of the kids that have come out and said that she was mean or abusive or, you know, whatever. And someone said, what are your thoughts on that? And it's something that I've never really addressed. And I don't know, when I read the question yesterday, it really kind of struck a chord with me, and I was like, oh, I have to think about that a little bit. And I have to say, sorry, I have to move these, they're making noise. I think for me, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I can only use myself. When I look back to when I was a young mother, I got married at 19. I was barely 19. And we had children. By the time I was 20, I had a baby. Oh, there's so many things that I did as a mom with my kids when they were younger that I cringe. I was not always the best mom, you guys. I was young and naive, and I didn't know a lot of things. Yeah. And I just cringe at things I did and said. But by the grace of God, our boys grew into exceptionally wonderful young men who I'm sure had to work through some of their childhood just like I did. I like to believe that people can change. That when we know better, we do better, right? And if I want that same grace to be given to me, I have to extend that same grace to other people. So when Meri says, I'm not that same person that I was back then. I have changed, I have grown, I have learned. I have to believe that. It doesn't mean that invalidates anyone else's perception and need to set boundaries. You know, Big Guy and I were talking yesterday. He came from a family with 5 biological children, and then when they were older, another adopted child came into the family. And they were talking about growing up. And I looked at Big Guy and I said, you know, you have to realize, we all have to realize, myself included with my own siblings, that our experience growing up in the family that we grew up in wasn't the same as our siblings' experience growing up in the exact same family. Everybody's experience is unique. And as a sister, I can look at my siblings and say, Mom and Dad weren't like that. Well, they weren't like that maybe with me, but maybe that wasn't my siblings' experience. And it's the same way for my husband and his siblings. And depending on people's experiences for their own mental health, sometimes people have to set up boundaries. They have to say, this person isn't someone that when I'm around them is a positive impact on my mental well-being. And so I have to put a boundary up there in place. Boundaries aren't put in place as a way, again, this is all just my opinion, okay? When we put a boundary up in place, it's not put up in place to punish someone else. It's not put up in place to manipulate someone else. A boundary, in my opinion, should be put up for your own well-being and for no other reason. So sometimes a boundary can be put in place that has, it's all about you. So when people say to me, you know, I've heard comments about, because of things I've heard the kids say, shame on Meri, and I can never, accept her apology. Are there unpardonable sins? Are there unforgivable sins? I guess that goes back to the way I was raised. I was raised Bible-toting Christian. And no, there's only one unforgivable sin. And that's blasphemy against God. And I would hope that if I'm going to want people to forgive me when I screw up, and I screw up on the daily, I try to be a good person, but I screw up. That means I have to forgive other people too. And it doesn't mean boundaries aren't set in place, but it means that we have to recognize that boundaries aren't there to punish other people. So my thoughts on Meri. Again, just my opinion. But I don't think the Meri we see today is the same Meri that we saw at the opening of Sister Wives. That's my thoughts on that. Have a good day.